Okay, one of the things we're going to be doing in the lab section for the course is we're going to be turning in some of our reports and documents using a system, a document processing system called LaTeX. Okay, so it's typically written like this with a capital L and a capital T in the middle. We'll talk about that in a second. But it's a markup language, which means it looks a little bit like code. So some people have an initial reluctance to use it, and some people have a permanent reluctance to using it. But I think it's an important thing to be exposed to because it depends on where you go. But LaTeX is basically a standard, a de facto standard for IEEE publications. So if you write a paper for IEEE, you can easily convert that into the journal version form by using LaTeX. Okay, it's a document processing system that was actually, if you come down here, it was built on something called TeX. All right, and TeX was written by Donald Knuth, who is a famous computer scientist. And basically, he saw a need for being able to write documents that had some math in it. And so he just came up with his own system for doing so. And it's typeset kind of quality like you'd get from a printer. So in my opinion, the look of it is far superior to something like Word. But there is the downside of having to understand the markup aspect of the language. Okay, so we talk about TeX and we talk about LaTeX, but LaTeX is actually a set of macros written for TeX by another computer scientist named Leslie Lampour. Okay, so the thing about it is not what you see is what you get. All right, so you'll put in some code and it will produce an output, and you have certain control over that output, but not perfect control. And so my advice is, do what you can to get it to look exactly the way you want it, but typically the decisions it makes in terms of how the final document looks is based on some principles from typesetting. And so, sometimes you won't get exactly the look that you want. There are tricks for getting figures to show up in certain places, and as we go through the course, we will, talk about those kind of tricks when that comes up. For this first report, I did want it to be relatively painless. So I have a template that's written, and all you have to do is go in there and edit the template. But I encourage you to look at the sections of this markup language so that you'll understand what things are supposed to look like, and get some tips in case there's a syntax error that that throws errors within LaTeX. All right, so I'm going to walk you through using LaTeX for the first lab report. Everyone, here's a walkthrough video for using LaTeX for the first lab report. Okay, so the first thing I want to do is get all the files in the right place so that you can, more seamlessly create your report. So if you'll recall, we had set up something in our box folder that had an overall folder for Lab1. And so when I click into that, there's the report folder that hopefully you created, and then there's the Vivado project folder. We're going to click into the report folder just to take a look here. Your folder will be empty. What I did was I downloaded the Lab1 report template to this folder from Canvas. And then this is a picture. If I click on this, I think it shows it. Maybe not. Yeah, there it is. There's the picture of the Basis 3 board. A few of the switches are up, and the lights are on. So this is clearly not what I wanted you to do for the lab. We wanted to do the opposite thing. I'm showing you the point of it. All right, so there's a picture that you uploaded from taking a picture of your board. All right, oops, I closed the wrong thing. Get back. Okay, so there's that. Hang on, let me scroll through here.
Next, what we want to do is go up a level to your project directories, and it's possible to give a path name where you don't have to move the source files or copy the source files. But for this first time, let's just make it easy. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select both of these files, right click, and copy them. All right, and then go to Lab1, go to the report folder and paste those files in. And so those are the files we used in our first project. This doesn't show the extension. I think you can make it, but that's neither here nor there. You know these end in .v, okay? So what we're going to do next is we're going to open this template, and this opens with Text Studio. There are other options available like TechWorks and TechMaker, and they all basically run the same, so I don't think it's super important which one you use. I use on my Mac, I use TechMaker, but whatever. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a template for your lab report, and let me just kind of go over the parts of this. This part that I'm highlighting here, this is the document setup, all right? I told you this is a markup language for creating documents. So you can create documents with different structures and looks and for different applications. And so how you set this up affects how the project or how the document's going to look in the end. We have set this up for you, so you shouldn't have to use the top part. In fact, if you use the top part, you could potentially break it. All right, so just start here with the body, and you see it starts with a backslash. Backslash is a special character in LaTeX that says, okay, there's a command that's coming. So anything that starts with a backslash is part of the markup language. Okay, so we begin the document, and whenever there's a begin, there should be a corresponding end. So that's one tip. If you have some errors that get thrown when you compile your document, it could be that there's not a matching end to whatever begin that you had. All right. So what you see here is backslash. That means it's a command, and this is set up to take a title. And so you can put your title in here. I've already done that for you. You can put your name in here. So there's, type into the brackets here. I asked you to, in this, next is sections. I put here a summary section and a results section. Put some comments. Comments start with a %sign. All right, so if you actually want a %sign in your document, you have to do \%, and that would actually generate a %sign. But %sign start a comment, and so what I'd like you to do in the summary section is just write a few sentences that give us some feedback about your experience with this first lab. I give you some examples. Did you have trouble with any of the steps? Or is there something misleading about the videos? Those kind of questions, you have your chance to give some feedback here. All right, so I put some text here just so that you can see this working whenever we actually run this and create a PDF file. Okay, so the next section I want is a verification photo. That's why I had you download the photo into your folder. So what you have here is you include the file name for your photo, and let's see. In my case, it was called IMG 4991. This turns out to be a JPEG file. This is not set up to show the extensions, but this is a JPEG file. LaTeX takes a lot of different formats. It'll take a PDF, it'll take a JPEG, it'll take a PNG, but it won't take, I don't think it will take HEIC, which is a compression format on Apple products like iPhones. And so if you have an image that's HEIC, you can convert it to JPEG, or you can change the settings on your phone, but it'll export naturally to JPEG. Okay, so IMG whoops, I already forgot the number. 4991 underscore 4991 is what goes here. You can put .jpg on this. I think it will infer that. We'll try it and see. Okay, next, I want you to include the code that you wrote. All right, I agree. Everybody's going to end up with the same code in this particular lab because I told you what to put in. But go back to the file manager here, and we see that names of the file are pass underscore invert and top pass underscore invert. So we just put those in. I think you do need the .v on this. You could experiment with that and see. Okay, and that's all there is to it. You know, we have this template. It's a markup language, so you put the critical information pieces within essentially the command structure, and you should be ready to go. And this process involves either, you know, you can separate the processes out. I hit this double arrow that will build and present a view of the document all at once. Okay, almost, you know, whether it's Tech Studio or Tech Maker or Tech Works, they typically have this one button that does everything in one step. Okay, this came up and let me set some shortcuts up if I wanted. I'm not going to bother with that. And you can see it's working. Working on creating the document. And on the right-hand side, you see, you know, the document that we want you to turn in. So no need to cut and paste code into a file. All right. The template takes care of that for you. All right. And formats that in a way that's a little more readable compared to just cutting and pasting into something like Word. Okay. You might have noticed with the picture, I had width 2.4 inches. This photograph was not very big, so I can change that size and make the width of it something more reasonable. So let's make that 4 inches and rerun this. And that's a better result. Okay, so that's what I want you to do for the first report. Let's close this. We don't need it anymore. Exit the program. And you see what got created in the directory was a lot of different files. Okay, and so you know, it tells you the type of file here to the right, and I'm looking for I didn't create the PDF. Well, there it is. Okay. All right, so when you go to the folder that contains your report, the LaTeX processing system created lots of different files. All right, and so if you go through here, you'll see this one is the PDF file. That's the output that you really want. That's what you're going to upload as your report. And so if I click on that, oh, and then, yeah, there's a PDF viewer that's set up on this Windows machine, and you can see a copy of your report. All right, so that's the process. Let me close that. And from here, like I said, you just upload that to Canvas. All right, so hopefully this walkthrough helped you. We'll learn more about LaTeX as we go through the course.